What's up, everybody? Welcome into A to Z Sports Picks. Brian and I are going to have a great show for you this Tuesday and get you ready for the betting week. Brian, we got another loaded week of college basketball, NBA, the NHL. And again, we've got MLB obviously coming right around the corner. I'm fired up for it, man.
Yeah, and so would love our listeners to hit the retweet button, hit the like button on Facebook, help us spread the word every Tuesday and Friday. Alan and I talking bets and ball games at 2 p.m. Central. Appreciate you guys joining us and looking forward to another good show today.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, like we said, welcome into A to Z Sports Picks. I'm Alan Bell of CBS Sportsline alongside Brian Edwards of VegasInsider.com. A to Z Sports Picks is brought to you every Tuesday and Friday by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Make sure everyone download the BetMGM app right now. And if you use promo code A to Z Sports, you'll receive a risk-free bet of up to $600. Brian, $600. Imagine what you could do with a risk-free bet like that. That's BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. Must be 21 years or older. Must be present in Tennessee. For gambling problem support, call the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789. So, Brian, my man, good to see you again, buddy. How you doing?
Good, buddy, my man. How was your weekend?
Man, it was good. We had a really good sports weekend. Betting, I did okay. I'm finding, and we'll talk about this more, I'm finding that on the weekends, at least in terms of basketball, it's a little more difficult. I don't know if it's lines, if it's spreads, if it's, teams that go through 2 games in a week, getting to the weekend. But it was a mixed bag. But overall, it was really good. We had a really good sports weekend. And, let's just kick the show off right now. Let's take a look at what we've got going, right? So we've got a nice little Tuesday, and let's just start it. Let's get some props out there, all right? Some prop plays for Tuesday night. We've got a nice mixture of college basketball games during the day, college basketball games at night. We've got NBA as well. So, Brian, I'll kick it to you first, man. What kind of props you looking at?
Man, I don't have any props, but I'm going to leave you with – I know you got some prop plays, but I've got plenty of player personnel news. Okay, Jimmy Butler tonight for the Heat is questionable. Obviously, that's key as they are 3.5 to Atlanta. Atlanta fired Lloyd Pierce yesterday. Nate McMillan takes over, and Bogdanovich, who's been out since January 9th, 25 games. He returns tonight for the Hawks, albeit on a minute limit restriction. Cam Reddish is out for the Hawks. Now for Illinois, huge game at Michigan. Ayo Dosunmu, who missed the win Saturday at Wisconsin, star guard, got a broken nose a week or so ago. He went through shoot around this morning, prompting most books to move Michigan from 8 down to 6.5. Now, I guess it'll be a game time decision, but there is some optimism he'll play. If you're looking at Vandy plus 14 at Arkansas, beware Scottie Pippen Jr. He's missed the last 2 games, although they did beat Ole Miss without him. 20.5 points per game average, 5.2 assists, 1.7 steals. Very questionable for Vandy plus 14 tonight at LSU, and they lost their big man, Dylan Disu. I'm not sure how they pronounce it, but they lost the big man for the season last week. For the Spurs, Rudy Gay, LaMarcus Aldridge, Derek White are all out. And for Auburn, Sharif Cooper is questionable at Alabama after missing the last 2 games. So there's some injury situations you need to keep your eye on for some key games tonight.
Yeah, it's good data, man. And really appreciate you breaking these things down because obviously you're right. It has so much to do, not only in games, but, player props and for the other side, right? So, we'll jump into it. I think Baylor, West Virginia is the game of the day. Whether you're looking at NBA, whether you're looking at college basketball, it's going to be a monster one. We've got Baylor number 3, West Virginia number 6. And really, that's where I'm going to start. And, my props here, obviously, we're not going to find player props in college, but I like playing some of the game props that they have. So I'm looking at about an 81-70 type game, and we're going to break the game down even more. I'm heavy on Baylor. I know my man Brian is going the opposite way, but what I mean by it is this, is if you look at the game props, there's 2 point ranges that I'm going to play tonight, and I think that you should too as well. So like I said, I've got about an 81 to 70 type game. So if you play point range 141 to 150, and that's just total score, it's plus 270. Point range 151 to 160, that's plus 300. So essentially what you can do is this, is if you just bet the same amount of money on either of those, say you play $10 on each one, well, that's a $20 opportune cost, and now you've covered yourself from 141 to 160. So I thought you've got an excellent range there to find where the game is going to be, whether it's high scoring or whether it maybe get a little defensive there in the second half. I think those two are going to be strong. And then my final prop play for tonight is coming out of the Grizzlies game. You could get John Morant and Russell Westbrook to combine for 10 plus assists at plus 325. And let me tell you why that is such a value. I think John Morant's going to have 9 assists by himself. Seriously. Now, you look at Westbrook, he might only have 4, 5, somewhere around that number. But John Morant is honestly likely to get ceiling 9 to 10, floor 7 to 8. So he's going to cover a lot of that for you. So again, nothing's a lock. But if you take a look at those 3, I think you're looking pretty, so to say.
Yeah, hey, time out on that, Alan. Was that combined assists by Westbrook and Morant over 10?
Yep.
What's the price on that? I like that.
Plus 325. Yeah.
For just 11 assists combined from the 2 of them?
Yep. Take a look.
At plus 320. Wow. Whoa.
Yeah.
I thumbs up on that one.
Yep.
Absolutely. I mean, the way that Davis Bertans and Bradley Beal have been shooting for Washington, I mean, I think both of them have about 8 or 9 assists tonight.
Honestly, yeah. I could see again, I could see it being a low assist game for Westbrook. So it's a BetMGM promotion that they have going on. So you're gonna have to search a little bit for it. Go to the game page, go to more bets, go to game props. Right there. Take a look there. And they've got some other options too. Be careful there and make sure that you look at the wording between, each have, both combine, et cetera, things like that. But yeah, you could find some really nice plays there. So that is it for our props. To take a look. Now, let's just transition this right into it, right? What we call 2 for the money. All right, where we're laying our money tonight across the board and what games that we're playing. Could be NBA, could be college basketball, could be NHL, could be anywhere, right? So we'll go 1-1-1-1. Brian, start us off. What's your first game tonight?
Well, Alan referenced that we were button heads to, or not tonight, early tip, and beware of that.
Central, right?
Yeah, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central. So, gosh, yeah, we're less than 2 hours away from tip of Baylor at West Virginia in Morgantown. So, and I'm sure Alan will explain it on his end that he's thinking, Baylor's had 2 warm-up games post-COVID, and, they got their rust games out of the way. I just like how West Virginia's playing, whether Baylor had slumped or not. West Virginia is a home dog, and not just a 1 or 2, but a 4-point dog. By the way, they've been underdogs 6 times this year. They're 4-2, both straight up and against the spread. They've only been a home dog once, and they won outright to Texas Tech. West Virginia's won 6 of its last 7. The only loss, a 1-point loss in overtime to Oklahoma. And if we go all the way back to December 23rd, Bob Huggins' team has only lost 4 times, and it's by 12 combined points. So when they've lost, it's just, they did lose by 5 to Florida, but otherwise it would have been at least a push if we're catching 4, which was the last number I saw within the last 10 or 15 minutes. So I'm going to go West Virginia plus the 4 at home with Baylor, that does leave them in bounce back mode, but they lost at Kansas and they really struggled against Iowa State, granted after a several week COVID break. And I'm also going to suggest getting West Virginia for less, money management purposes, but get a little taste of the money line, especially if you can get around plus 160.
That's nice. So yeah, like you said, we're on opposite ends on this one. And I just want to say, what's up, everybody in the chat? Good to see you guys. Really glad that you guys are tuning in. Let us know what bets you guys are taking tonight. We'd love to see those. And yeah, Brian, I'm going the opposite end on you, man. I'm going Baylor. I'm taking the 4. I really like Baylor in this bounce back situation. I think that there is an opportunity to where Baylor might be. They could be in a rough spot. I think this is kind of a big game test for them. We'll see where they're at because, quite frankly, they're a good team, but there's questions, especially after the long layoff that they've had. But I'm going to ride with they're 80% against the spread as a betting favorite this season. I know a lot of that has come, obviously before the last couple weeks, but still, I think that this team is good. I think what Kansas did to them should be a good wake-up call. And quite frankly, like I said, I see this as about an 81-70 type score. I think Baylor hands it to West Virginia pretty good tonight. But again, West Virginia's a pretty good team. So I'm going to say that. I'm taking Baylor. I'm riding with the 4.
All right. I will counter with Sparty, which had a bad loss Sunday at Maryland, but they had won 3 in a row prior to that, including a 78-71 win at Indiana. And then they followed that up with home wins over Illinois and Ohio State, which were very impressive and got Michigan State by most bracketologists on the right side of the bubble. Now, after that loss to Maryland, I've looked at different, bracket gurus. Some have Michigan State like the first team out, the last team in. And then even Indiana is still within striking distance, but they got to start winning several games starting today. But most people have Indiana in the next 4 out. But I think Archie Miller's on a boiling hot seat, and I think his voice has gone stale in that locker room. And Michigan State only laying 3 to IU at home. I already mentioned 2 Sundays ago. They won by 7 at Assembly Hall in Bloomington. So I'm going to go with Michigan State -3. Indiana is 3-5 straight up in 8 road assignments this season, and they are mired in they've lost 3 in a row, both straight up and against the spread. And in their last 11, they are just 4-7 straight up, 3-7-1 against the spread. And perhaps most importantly, one of their better players, Armand Franklin, who averages 11.6 points, 4.2 rebounds, 1.2 steals per game. He's questionable. He missed Saturday's blowout loss to Michigan at home, and whether he can play or not is still iffy. So I'm going to go Sparty -3.
I like it. And in the chat, going off that Ja and Westbrook, take a look at that. It might be, both going for 10. If that is, I don't feel as comfortable with that as I would combined, obviously. So I could switch that over to a Ja Morant points. I think BetMGM has him over under somewhere around 19. I see him about 21.8, so around 22 points tonight. So I would feel comfortable switching that over just a Ja Morant points play there. My second game is going to be the Phoenix Suns +2.5 at the Lakers. We've seen a lot of movement on this line. I played it last night when I saw it come out. I think you're looking BetMGM, I believe 1.5, somewhere right there. I still feel comfortable with Phoenix. I think that they win this game outright, but I'm going to take some points with it. You look at Phoenix, they're 6-0 against the spread, and their last 6 is road underdogs. I feel comfortable with this team. But again, take a look there. You might not get 2.5. You might be sitting 1.5, somewhere around there. Again, the money line play might be worth a little bit of your money there, but I'm going to take the points where I can, especially if you're going to get it above 1 or at least above 2. So I feel good. Suns +2.5, riding on that one. So we're going to move right into we're going streaking. This is my favorite segment of the week, to be completely honest with you, because I like finding streaks that we have across, whether it's college basketball, whether it's NBA, whether it's NHL, whether it's a league as a whole, right? So, I'll give you one as an example, and this is not, necessarily a streak. It's just a statistic. If you look at the NHL and you see home underdogs, they're hitting 68.3% against the spread. Now, I understand that I play a lot of NHL, and I certainly play a lot of puck line, +1.5 type bets, and you got to pay juice for that for sure. I totally understand, but I've made some pretty decent money off of it, so just pay attention to that. But some streaks that we're finding, and I've got a couple, but I'll just start one, and then Brian, I really want to hear yours because you've done on this a lot. I'm going to stick to college basketball, and the first one that I have is you look at Toledo. All right, they've covered 6 of its last 8. They're a top 5, top 10 against the spread college basketball team this season. So keep an eye on those guys. I think you can find some value for sure. especially in the next, 1.5 weeks, so to say. So, Brian, what do you got, buddy?
All right. So, the Rockets, they lost their 12th game in a row last night, 101-90, even though they were home favorites to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're 1-11 against the spread during that stretch. And going back about a week and a half ago, I was telling you how the Cleveland Cavaliers were in a similar abysmal stretch. Cleveland went 0-13 against the spread, and they only had one outright win in that stretch. Well, since then, Cleveland's won 4 in a row, both straight up and against the spread. So the Rockets are the ones with the big-time abysmal run going on right now, and Cleveland has righted the ship. So the Pelicans, the overs, we finally got an under. The 11-0 run for the Pelicans on overs ended on Saturday night. Just barely, though. They had 231 against the Spurs. I think that number ended up closing around 234 and a half. But last night, they bounced, they get another over. So now the over is on a 12-1 run for New Orleans since February 6th. It's on a 25-4 run since January 2nd. And I'll also point out that was the 7th home underdog spot for the Pelicans this year. They're now 6-1, both straight up and against the spread in 7 games as underdogs. And then I'll give you another streak, and it applies to a play I have tonight. The Wizards are 7-2 straight up in their last 9, 8-1 against the spread. And the cover where they had an outright loss was just a couple nights ago. Sunday, they lost by 1 at Boston. They missed a buzzer beater that would have won it. So I'm going with Washington, either a pick 'em or let's see what BetMGM has it at currently. Let's see.
The Wizards have been a nice play. While you looking that up, they've been a really nice play. You're exactly right. And what we talk about, like, I completely screwed up every piece of advice that we say. This goes to show anybody that bets can just be dumb. I played the Pelicans under last night. And what do we always talk about? When a streak breaks, don't go against it. Like, keep riding it.
You harped on it last week correctly.
I'm telling you, man. Like, I just lost my mind last night. And anyways, kick it back to you. But I should take my own advice here.
Right. So BetMGM has the Wizards at +1. And look, not only during this 7-2 straight up and 8-1 ATS streak, they're not just beating scrubs. I mean, they've beaten Boston. They've beaten Denver twice, once at home and once on the road. They won at the Lakers. They won at Portland. And one of their 2 losses, besides the 1-point loss to Boston the other night, was at the Clippers on a night when the Clippers could not miss. Memphis is playing a little bit better here in the last 3 or 4 games, but if we go back 15 games, they're 6-9, both straight up and against the spread. So again, BetMGM has got the Wizards at +1 at home against Memphis, and I like that one.
I like it, man. And everybody, for sure, make sure you download the BetMGM app for sure. And all right, so we got a good question in here. All right, so the real Ryan asks, over under on the Baylor game. All right, I don't know exactly where the total sits right now.
I do.
What do you got?
We got, okay, well, I just want to make sure I get the BetMGM one. Okay, and that's that column. So BetMGM is at 148.5 right now.
Yeah.
And most other books are there. I see one book has 149, another has 148, but it's 148.5 at most spots. And I will point out that West Virginia had 7 straight overs.
Yeah.
And also a 10-1 streak to the over. However, since that, they've had back-to-back unders their last 2 games.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier in the show, I see an 81-70 type game, somewhere around 151, 152. So again, like I would feel a little comfortable playing the over. It's not anything that I would certainly hammer down or lock down. Again, I go back to the point ranges of what we talked about earlier in terms of the prop bets. I really like that play. So instead of just playing the over under, like if I were doing a parlay, I would put the over, in there if I had to make a bet on it. But again, I'm going with the props on this one. So if I can cover myself 141 to 160, I feel really, really comfortable because that gives you essentially, 8 points lower, 11 points roughly somewhere around there, in terms of over that exact number. So whichever way the game goes, I feel comfortable with that. So yeah, what about you? Would you go over, under? How do you feel?
Yeah, and as I look at these numbers here, because now I'm looking at Baylor.
Yeah,
I'm starting to think over as well because Baylor was on a 6-0 overrun until they only had 58 points, and it was a thunder. Well, it wasn't that big of a thunder under. It was a pretty low number to Kansas the other night, but it went well under.
Yeah.
But before that, 6 straight overs, and let's see, they had 149 in that one. Let's see, they had 152 in the previous one. Then they had 156. Then they had 166. They had 149. And the one that started the 6-0 overrun, that was actually only 146. But so that shows you that 5 of the last 7 games for Baylor would have gone over the 148.5. So not only am I leaning that way, I may go add that to my picks. Who's my man that was asking about that overplay? I'm looking.
Real
Ryan. Thanks, buddy. You might have added another pick to my repertoire tonight. Thank you, bud.
And let me say this: some sources that I know that were formerly on the West Virginia basketball staff, we're getting close to. If you look at Bob Huggins, he's about, I believe, 2 wins away from his 900th win. And there are a lot of people coming in to celebrate, and they've got about a 4-game stretch here coming up. So you've got a lot of people coming in, a lot of former coaches, a lot of former players. It's going to be a hype, excited type of time. Not that has a ton to do with the betting spreads or anything like that, but I can see West Virginia wanting to play some pretty exciting, some pretty fast-paced style basketball. So I could see a few more points being scored than normal. So, yeah, like I said, not that has much to do with anything, but some good people are heading out there. They want to celebrate with hugs. So I wouldn't be surprised a couple extra shots get up per game in the next 4. Just keep an eye on that. Yeah, I feel really comfortable with that over. So that's about it. That's about all we have. Brian, any final parting words for him?
Yeah, so Teddy Allen for Nebraska, he left the team, leading scorer, just broken the arena record for 41 points just last week in a Nebraska game. 2 of Pitt's 3 leading scorers have left the team. We've got guys that are, teams that aren't going to go to the postseason. I mean, talk about people are not only checking out mentally, they're literally leaving their squad.
Literally checking out.
They literally are checking out, turning in their uniforms in. So, I mean, but as I say that, Nebraska, without Teddy Allen, beats Rutgers by 21 points last night. So perhaps Teddy Allen's example wasn't that good. And even Pitt, who lost 2 of the 3 top scorers, literally left the team last week. They lost at NC State, but they did cover. So those might be 2 bad examples. And let me also say, if Scottie Pippen Jr. gets upgraded to probable tonight, I like Vandy plus 14. They are on a 6-0-3, 3 pushes in 9 games, 6-0-3 run against the spread. And they are catching 14 to LSU. LSU's 1-3 against the spread as a double-digit favorite and as a double-digit dog. Vandy is 4-1-1 against the spread. Now, that's a team that's not going anywhere, but they're still playing hard for Stackhouse. And, the AD that hired Stackhouse is long gone. And so it's probably good that they're still playing hard because I don't know if they would give him the axe 2 seasons in, but they do have a new AD, and they haven't been very good, although they've had bad injuries. But they're playing pretty good here for Stackhouse down the stretch, which makes me think he may see a 3rd year. And
Yeah,
I don't know the financials with Vandy and all the money lost with COVID. I would think they're fine though with the SEC. Hell, they fired Mason in football.
Well, let me say this: I'm just a couple miles away from Vanderbilt's campus, and not that I'm some Vandy insider, but I definitely do, know that their new AD, Candace Story-Lee, she certainly is going to do everything she can to fix the athletic program as a whole. Stackhouse has brought some heat on himself. He's been a little quick with that Twitter block on some fans, but like you said, I think the players have kind of turned it around a little bit for him. I think that they see, and to be completely honest with you, I think that was Stackhouse being a little aggressive, so to say. I think that's one of those things where he kind of speaks to the locker room, letting them know like, hey, this is not acceptable. Like we're here to win, and I'm going to take this heat for you. But you're going to have to understand and see what's going on. We've seen other coaches do that down the road, and it's worked. So I think we're seeing a play on that. So, yeah, I think Stack comes back next year, obviously, just to kind of round that thing out. But, yeah. So,
they're playing well right now. I mean, look, Tennessee beat them by 12 last week, but they had 3 guys out: Cleavon Brown and Scotty Pippen.
3 guys out, and the game was tight in the second half. I know that the score shows 12 points, but yeah, that game was a lot tighter. I agree with you. And Tennessee, quite frankly, we could go an entire show on Tennessee basketball, but Tennessee should beat that Vanderbilt team by 35. Honestly,
Tennessee's in trouble, man. I don't even know if they're going to win their first round game. And I saw Lunardi on Bracketology still had them as a 6 seed. I mean, they are playing like a 13 seed for a month.
Hey, we talked about it on Friday. That game against Auburn. Like I didn't like that at all. I didn't like anything about it, and they ended up losing that one outright. Yeah, I mean Tennessee's gonna. I can't wait to see conference tournaments next weekend because there's gonna be a lot of teams that have a lot to prove. And not that Tennessee has to prove that it's a tournament team, but in terms of seeding, yeah, they're gonna have to win a couple games. They need to get into the weekend for sure. So
and losing to Auburn without Sharif Cooper is not. Without Sharif Cooper, Auburn is not a good basketball team.
No, I'm telling you, and that's why, when we talked about it, I didn't like it at all. I didn't like anything about that game. And quite frankly, I don't like much about Tennessee's game right now and for a while. They've obviously got some issues over there. They're clearly a tournament team. We're not saying that they're going to miss it, but they got some work to do, definitely for sure. So, yeah, everybody, we sure do appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in. For Brian Edwards, I'm Alan Bell. And let's cash some tickets tonight.